Somewhere between reality and imagination lies the realm of the paranormal. A place filled with spirits, magic, and the unexplained. Come with us on our journey to discover if the stories are true or if they are all just smoke and mirrors.
Welcome to Smoke and Mirrors, the podcast that dives deep into the cases of the paranormal, the unusual, and the unexplained to separate the facts from the fiction. I'm your host, Daryl.
And I'm Cindy. And today we are talking the Roswell incident with the director of Roswell 70 years later and Bigfoot researcher Stacy Brown. But before we get started, we would like to remind you to follow and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/smokeandmirrorspod. Also, please remember to send us your stories of paranormal encounters to smokeandmirrorspod@gmail.com. We would love to read them.
That's my favorite thing to do, is read people's stories that get sent in. And on episode 4 coming up, we're going to be reading your stories. We have a whole episode that's just listener stories, and it's absolutely brilliant. So unfortunately, Cindy wasn't able to join me when I did this interview. You had something with our daughter that you had to take her to, and so you weren't able to make it. And that seems like the luck every time with Stacy.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate for me because I really enjoy listening to you and he talk and listening to the interview, but I really want to get in and be able to talk to him myself. He seems super, just down to earth and a good conversationalist, and it seems to flow really well. So maybe it's a good thing that I'm not there, because that might just break up the rapport that you two have. I'm not sure, but if we ever have him on again, I'm going to do my very best to be part of the interview.
We men do men talk. Yeah, I always enjoy talking to Stacy. He's a blast, and he just kind of says some stuff sometimes out of left field. It really makes me laugh. So I think y'all are going to enjoy this. So let's get it going. All right, tonight we're talking Roswell, UFOs and aliens with Bigfoot researcher, director of Roswell 70 years later, and all-around good guy. Welcome back to the show, Stacy Brown. How's it going, brother?
Well, not bad, man. How you been?
I've been making it, man. I'm busier than a blind man should be.
All right.
I'm doing all right. How you making it through the hurricane season this year?
We've got lucky, but it's just a matter of time, dude. The problem with it is all the prices inflate. Everybody goes to grab all the supplies from the stores. They start panicking, and I can talk conspiracy theory all day on this. It's the Weather Channel panics everybody, man, to make it all look worse, I mean, even though it's bad, in some situations it's bad, but most hurricane seasons we don't get much, just get a bunch of rain.
Yeah. My sister's been living down there for, 2 or 3 years now, and she's kind of just become a regular Floridian, where she just, hurricanes coming, she's just like, we'll see how it goes.
The biggest problem where I live is like down trees. We recently had like $5,000 worth of trees cut around the house because we live in the woods, which, tell you the truth, that's not really that many trees.
Yeah.
But I think you get a lot more cut down than what it did.
Yeah. Now, did you all cut them yourself, or did you have a logging company come in and do it?
No, I had somebody come in and do it, man. I'm 35 and going on 52. My back just ain't what it was back in the day. So
I feel you. I guess you've been staying busy somewhat, because I think I saw you and someone else on a show here recently on the Travel Channel. Was that something recent, or was that something recorded a while back?
We actually did that last year, last September. I think it came out around, I want to say January or February this year, but me and a guy, Justin Smea, I don't know if you remember that name or not, but
Yeah.
he claimed he killed 2 Bigfoots a while back, right?
Yeah.
You remember this whole story? Like, they were having DNA tested and everything.
Yeah.
And he, like, choked the little one. But anyways, I was on the show, Bigfoot Bounty, with him. And, you know, we did an expedition out there. Actually, Bigfoot Evidence put it on. And they had me as a guest. They had him as a guest. And there was people come out, you know, we all camped up at the kill site where he claims he killed them. Well, after that, I was still there for like a week, just a Bigfoot myself. And we changed elevation, went down to another spot about 3,000 feet down the mountain.
Yeah.
And that's where we had our sighting. So they just wanted us to retell that story because I mentioned it on a podcast one time and somebody heard it. Oh, hey, let's bring him in. And they had some scientists there doing some DNA work, like environmental DNA. So they tested the water, and they came to the conclusion that there was an unknown primate in that. But I can't speak for the validity of their testing. I just do know it was on the television program. So believe what you will, I guess. The story was true. The rest of it that they had there going on at the end just didn't. I don't know. Maybe it was. Who knows? I was just like, oh, yeah, of course we found something.
Yeah. I saw a documentary showing the flaws in DNA testing. And one of the things they said was the more people that are involved, it gets exponentially harder to separate the DNA and really figure out what goes where. And so if you're doing environmental DNA and you're basically anything that may have touched it, it seems next to impossible to separate out everything.
We've thought about doing some of our bait stations we have. And, you know, you're supposed to, we can get a dirt sample. We get like 10 dirt samples of the area. You know, we believe Bigfoots have been through there and that'll come back, maybe show that they have been there. But at the end of the day, they don't have nothing to match that to. So just because you got an unknown DNA doesn't mean it's Bigfoot.
Yeah, and I think my point was that how would you know that this was the exact structure? Because like I said, as you add in everything that touched it, it just becomes harder and harder and harder and harder to separate out and go, okay, well, this all goes together and this all goes together.
I'm not smart enough to understand it, nor really that interested.
Yeah.
You know, my buddy Todd Distel, he tells me about it, how the process works. From what I understand, he's got a machine, he puts it in, and it can separate everything, you know, and it'll tell you, okay, hey, this is a raccoon, you know, this is a bear, this is a human, you don't know what human, you know, but this is supposed to be a human. You got a feline here, or blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
You know, and then you have an unknown, and he was talking to me about it. He's like, it doesn't matter if you have unknown DNA, you can have that all day long. It doesn't mean it's from a Bigfoot.
Yeah.
It just means there was probably a mistake there.
And that's good when you got like Todd Distel. He's been on quite a few shows in the past, and I've seen him around for a while, and I think he brings legitimacy as far as that goes to the search.
He does, you know. He takes his work and his reputation seriously, so he likes it. I mean, he would like to be the one to sequence that DNA.
Yeah,
you know, but at the same time, he doesn't really believe that it's, you know, a real thing.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we'll get to what we had you come on here for, man. We're going to be talking Roswell. Now, if anyone out there has been, I don't know, under a rock for the last 70 times we've rotated around the sun, Roswell happened in July 1947 during a severe thunderstorm. Something crashed at a ranch outside of Roswell, New Mexico. It was first reported as a downed flying saucer, but then that story was quickly changed by the government. You put out the documentary Roswell 70 years later, and I don't want to spoil it yet, but you had an interesting theory on what actually occurred there.
I guess that was my favorite theory that I came up with after making the film. Originally started out, I wasn't going to be on the film. Then I did all this research, and I'm like, you know what? I'm kind of a Roswell researcher at this point.
Yeah.
I had a theory on what it was, a few different ones, and it just depends on which way you want to go. If you're not completely sold, the problem is we have people that just they believe blindly.
Yeah.
That Roswell aliens crashed there. The government admitted it, and they retracted it. And if you can think outside of that box, because seriously, I love that idea. There's a lot of stuff, and from my view, that can say that it was aliens. But then again, you got to think about how the government works in the first place. And it's all conspiracy theory, but it was very interesting. Talking to one of the locals, they shed me on a theory that I didn't really get into in the movie, but it made me wish that I had not did the movie the way I already had.
Oh, yeah.
It made me wish that I would redone the whole thing, but at that point I was already done. I was like, last day, I was like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Not going to be able to redo all this.
I tell you, though, it's worth watching because, one, I got some information that even as much as I have kind of researched it and all the stuff that, well, I listened to, but I heard something that I had never heard as far as the alien corpses. And when I heard it, I don't know, something clicked in my head. And I thought, that's the most plausible theory I've heard for what they claimed was the corpses of aliens that were found there. It was brought up that Operation Paperclip used people who were handicapped, mentally disabled, and had something called progeria.
Yes.
They were using them as experiments in these high altitude tests.
Well, you got to figure back at that time, people, I don't know, there were a lot of homes, hospitals with these kind of people in them. Parents, it wasn't maybe that they didn't want them, they just couldn't take care of them for whatever reason, and these kids are the property of the state, and unfortunately they are actually known for doing that. The kids with the progeria, even if you look it up, like when Nick said it in the film, I was like typing it on my phone, and the first thing that come up is the picture of the kids that had it. It's like, oh, there you go. There's your gray alien.
Yeah, and that was the thing, because I had heard of progeria in the past, so I knew what it was. And for those of you who don't know it, it's sometimes they call it fast aging, but it's not really that. It's just that the kids have symptoms and the look of someone who's 80 years old, and they'll have bone depletion, and they have atrophy. And usually their chin is very small and pointy. Their nose is pointy. They usually have big eyes, and their head is a little bit bigger. And then you have this, like the spindly arms and legs, and really no sexual organ development.
Right. It fits the description.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It fits the description to a T. And that one was really cool. When he said that, because I had never heard it neither, and I was like, wow, hear him talk about it. It was. I'm really glad that we got that in the film.
Like I said, it was one of those things that as soon as he said it, it clicked in my mind, and I was like, holy crap, that's it. Because at first, there was no mention of bodies at Roswell. I don't think that came up until maybe the 70s. And then in 97, I think the government said,
yeah, they kind of said it was the crash test
dummies,
in 97. But that theory is great. It's kind of horrific that they would do that to kids, but I promise you, what crashed in Roswell was not a weather balloon, not a high altitude weather balloon. That crater is still there, and that crater is still massive.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to really be there at the site to kind of appreciate how big it is. And balloon theory, that is a lie. Like, I'll never believe anything else. Maybe it wasn't a UFO, but it damn sure wasn't a weather balloon.
In the film, you had said that they tell you where the site is, and then you went out there and said, well, this wasn't the real site. We had to go somewhere else to find the real site. How did you find out that where they showed you on the map wasn't the real place, but it was this other spot?
Locals.
Okay.
Locals straight up tell you. They told us who it was, who owned the property. We called and talked to them. And then it was, are we going on this guy's word here? Because this is what happens in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
You take somebody's word and you don't go to the place you're supposed to go, and you end up hanging somebody's rafters.
Yeah.
But it was cool. The road was terrible. We got out there. Sci-Fi Channel has a monument out there.
Oh yeah.
And then the spot on top of that is just, you can't fly your drone over, as you see in the footage, because they say it's restricted airspace, which is odd because you are literally in the middle of nowhere.
Is there any kind of base around there, even closed, that's near their military base?
Like, not at all.
Okay.
We were 12 feet off the ground when it landed itself.
Huh.
That was hard to understand because you couldn't even hear no cars where we were at. I mean, like, seriously, all you could see is just pasture.
That is strange because, like, where I live, we live up near Fort Campbell. And so you can't fly drones right here. We're too close to the base. So, they don't allow it. But it's odd that it would be out in the middle of absolutely nowhere and then just have a random no-fly zone.
Yeah, I mean, it's a half-day's drive out there for nothing. Like, I mean, there's nothing along the way. You got to gas up before you go, and then you can't go that fast. Like, the roads are so bad, you cannot go that fast. Like, I thought we were going to end up popping a tire or something like that because of all the rocks that we were driving across.
Yeah.
And we just pulled up to a gate and thought that was the one they were talking about. Took it, and I think it took I want to say 3 hours to get out there from town, if I remember correctly.
Man. See, yeah, that was something else that I was wondering, because one of the things that occurred right after the crash was, of course, the Mac Brazel was the first one to see it. And as far as I know, and he said he kind of loaded up his truck and headed down to Roswell. And I think I heard it was like 75 miles. And one of my thoughts was, why would he go 75 miles? But I guess if there's nothing around, you just got to go to the place that's the closest.
I mean, it's almost like Corona. It's like it's closer, I guess, to Corona than it is Roswell. Or I don't know. For some reason, it seemed like we were closer to that. But you had to enter from Roswell.
Yeah.
You had to come down there from there, And it was quite the trek. You shouldn't be thinking you're driving 3 hours for that amount of time, but we were not even getting to do 30 for a while.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now, there's several things that have been said that happened out at Roswell. UFO crash. There's the Project Mogul weather balloon. I've even heard a meteor.
Right.
But one of the things when I saw that you had that crater there, really, other than the meteor, the other two, I don't think were heavy enough to have caused a crater like that.
No, well, and then they also say it skipped. So there's like several different impact spots.
Yeah.
There's several different spots like that where something skipped and took a chunk out the ground and then still went like 20 miles. Could it have been a meteor? Yeah, possibly. I think the town would have felt it maybe, or at least all of them would have seen it.
Yeah.
I could be wrong there. But if it was a plane, because you could punch holes in every single theory there is, and that's the problem with all this.
Yeah.
If it was a plane, that's an awful big crash site. Because when the 9/11, I think Flight 87 that crashed in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
There really wasn't no marks on the ground like that. And I think it was a 757, 747 maybe.
Yeah. Like I said, when I saw that, I thought, okay, well, it had to be something fairly big. that hit the ground. One of the things I've heard too was that some people have said, well, it couldn't possibly have been Project Magel because there was 2 football fields of debris. But
Right.
that depends too, because from what I've found about Mogul, which was the fact that it was hooked to like a 600-foot train of weather balloons.
Right.
So if all of that came down, that's going to cover a pretty good area.
Yeah, that would, but then you have to get back to the size of the crater and decide whether you believe that the balloons and, the little thing they had built, which was, what was it, more or less just a big, like, satellite dish that pointed towards Russia?
Basically, I think what they were doing was trying to pick up radio waves from missile launches, so it was for like an early warning system.
Right. Well, when they show that picture of that thing, and it's on display there at the Roswell Museum, there just ain't no way.
Yeah.
Like, that can't be the crater if that's really what it was. That crater, I don't know what that is, but that's supposedly the crash site, and it has to be a football field long.
Yeah. That was one of the things, I guess it's been almost 2 years ago. We went out to Phoenix, and we wanted to go to Roswell, but something happened and we didn't get to go. But that would be one of those places I'd love to actually get to, just so you get kind of a feel for the actual size of the area. And that's, I guess, something that really, it's kind of hard to convey, I think, through video, especially if you can't get an aerial shot.
Right. Well, see, the shot we had planned was the drones to go up. We were going to stand down there in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And then you'd actually see how big it was compared to us. But we couldn't do it. So we just had to pan across it. And that really didn't show how actually big. It looks like somebody took an ice cream scoop and just chunked out the ground.
Yeah. So, like I said, I know what your theory was in the movie you made. But you said since then, your theory may have changed.
Right. Okay, so we were walking out of the diner the last day, and a guy was smoking a cigarette, and he talked to me. He told me that, he said, about all this Roswell thing, and my family's been here for a while. And he said, you got to follow the money. You really want to know what happened in Roswell. You follow the money. When did the money come back? When did the money leave? How broke did this place get before? He said, I think you'll find that, some things were crafted to bring something back to this town, and that was people in the form of tourism.
Yeah.
So you have to look into that. You have to think about it. And so Roswell was a booming place. I think it was the second biggest city, only to Albuquerque at the time in the whole state. This happened, and just a few years later, the airfield closes down.
Yeah.
And there went the economy for the place, and that is still there. The remnants of, I guess, more or less a depression in that town was there because most of the jobs are military jobs. Most of the families were military families. When you take that amount of people out of an economy, it doesn't do as well. And the people are left there with just the locals, and that's not paying the bills anymore. So you have years of this, years of nothing. And all of a sudden, oh, hey, it was aliens that crashed out there. It was, that's what it was. It was aliens. They all crashed out here. There was bodies and there was pieces of wreckage. The government lied. They told the truth, but then they lied.
Yeah.
So you have to look at that. When did all of the place, when did it start thriving again? What does it thrive off of now? It thrives off of now that tourism that comes into that place yearly, and it is a lot of people.
Yeah.
UFO people flock to that place like it's a mecca or something. So that's why things are doing well there. So maybe some county commissioners or whoever, landowners, whatnot, made up the story to save the place, to bring it back, Maybe not, but that's what I took from this guy that was suggesting that, and I was like, wow, I should have covered that.
Yeah. I actually had thought about that one time. I guess I'd seen a video that was done by, I don't know, maybe Linda Moulton Howe or something. And the thing was, one of the things that she said was how after the quote unquote crash occurred, that then the economy there tanked. And I think at that point I thought to myself, well, what if they just made the whole thing up?
Exactly. I mean, you have to look at the fact that would the U.S. government ever, I don't care if it was 1947 or yesterday, would they ever tell us, oh, wow, y'all, a UFO just crashed and we got the parts, we got the wreckage? Nope.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think they did that to cover up what they actually were doing, because a lot of people got sick in Corona after that. A lot of people got sick. And they come out and they were trying to test the water, you know, to see what it was, because I think they were blaming it on E. coli or something like that, something that was in the water. And what boiled down was some type of poisoning. They never got a real answer from anybody. The people got better, but everybody got sick immediately after that. So you look at the end of the war there, and we bring all the Germans that we could get our hands on over, you know, to run the space program, to run all this, to build our intercontinental ballistic missiles and stuff like that. So you bring those people over, and then we got the unit from the Japanese, and we brought them over, and they were testing biological weapons on their own people and like people that they captured and stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe something crashed that they had, and it had chemical agents on it, made all the people sick. And so instead of, you know, telling everybody, hey, we're spraying stuff in the air and testing it on y'all, we got a flying saucer just landed down here.
Yeah.
And then they retract it, and so it looks like they're covering up UFOs when actually they're not covering up UFOs at all. They're covering up, they've been poisoning all y'all.
Yeah.
They just spilled a bunch of it out at once.
The thing is, it's not like it's implausible, because the government has done it before.
Oh, we know this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the thing. We know they are doing this. They're doing this today. But people want to believe that it's UFOs. And that's why the topic is so interesting to me. It's like the Patterson-Gimlin film.
Yeah.
Hey, all the evidence says that film's fake. But people will fight you tooth and nail over it. They will fight you tooth and nail. And they will over Roswell, too.
The thing is, with that tape, man, it's been scrutinized so many times. And, you know, again, it depends on where you see some of the information from, that's where it's being scrutinized. You know what I'm saying? Because some people will scrutinize it and they'll completely leave out all the stuff that could possibly make it look fake. And then somebody else is going to criticize it, and they're going to leave out all the information that could make it seem remotely plausible.
Well, think about it. Roger Patterson's broke. He has cancer. He writes a bad check for a camera. You know, he's known at the time as a person like Rick Dyer.
Yeah.
They're pretty much the same person. This dude's trying to make some money. He invests in, or he gets investors into his film, gives them all 50% of the film, by the way. That's another thing to leave out. He gave all these different people 50% of the film. Now, how the hell are you going to do that?
Yeah.
You know? And then you go out there to make your Bigfoot film, and you film a Bigfoot on the first time. Let me tell you something about hunting Bigfoot. You're more than likely to never, ever encounter one if you look for one. You know?
Yeah.
And another thing about it, from being a researcher, Bigfoots don't walk out in the open. They never do that.
Yeah, no cover to hide in.
Yeah, and he's dying. He's trying to leave his family something, and he left them something. I mean, he left them something better than he could ever imagine. He probably had no idea what he really had.
Yeah.
At all the people that were just going to be like, oh, it's real, it's real, it's real. And, you know, it's probably not. You know, like that's the thing about it. It's probably not real. Is Bob Gimlin lying about it? I don't know. Maybe. He's making money off of it now, but that doesn't mean he's lying either. I mean, he could have just not known.
Yeah. And this is one of the things I always liked about talking to you is the fact that you kind of go by what I think researchers into anything ought to go by. And number 1 is be skeptical. Number 2 is collect information. Number 3 is get rid of every bit of information that can be debunked in any way, shape, or form. Then you look at your conclusion, and then at the end, you stay skeptical.
Yeah. I mean, because, hey, at the end of the day, I wasn't there.
Yeah.
I can't tell you, and I'm not going to put my faith into that. If we really wanted to put our faith in something that exists as Sasquatch, there are actually Gigantopithecus bones.
Yeah.
So we basically have Bigfoot bones. Now, did they go extinct? We don't know. They really weren't that far back when we crossed over into this country. They were living right there in that same region at the same time. So it's possible that they came over and that they still in some way are around today. But just because that piece of footage, says otherwise, dude, I do this with every single thing, and you have to let if you're going to honestly, objectively look at something and figure something out, you have to look at it.
Yeah.
And whether you believe the answer or not, whether you believe the facts or not, the facts in that one, just like the facts in Roswell, there's a lot to say it could be something else in Roswell.
Yeah.
And with the Patterson-Gimlin film, there's more to say that is not a real Bigfoot. But Roswell, it's a little bit, muddier.
Yeah.
Hell, it could have been a UFO because you got, the colonel. I can't remember his name off the top of my head.
Oh, you're talking about Philip J. Corso?
Yes. The stuff he said makes sense. With the technology that we got look at how we've improved technologically since then, it's night and day.
Yeah. Philip J. Corso, he's one of those guys that a lot of UFO people put up as being infallible. But one of the things that I've thought about from time to time was that what if he saw something, but because he wasn't really supposed to be privy to what was going on as far as development of technology, and maybe in the instance with the bodies, it might have been kids with progeria, and he had never seen that before. And so what I'm saying is maybe I wondered if he saw something that he misinterpreted.
What I read on him, he actually he flew over a canyon, and he seen something down in the canyon. Then he drove out back by himself in a Jeep. Drove up to the saucer. Thing come out of the cave. Talked to him telepathically. He called in for them to shut down the radar, so they couldn't see the thing come up on the ship. The thing asked him to shut down the green zone, is what they called it. He said, "What am I going to get in return?" He said, "The world, if you will take it." So the thing flies off, or he calls in, shuts it down. The thing flies off, and it comes back on. And they catch it I think it was 30 miles from that spot, going like 3,000 miles an hour when they shut it back on or turn it back on. And that, that's also part of his thing, because his book, The Day After Roswell, is thought to be his memoir from a lot of people.
Now, I think I heard recently, and I don't remember where it was. Oh, I remember I was watching an interview with him after the book had come out, I think. Or maybe it was with someone who knew him, but he wasn't happy with what was put in the book.
Right. Oh, well, that was the guy that wrote the foreword.
Yeah. The
guy that he had wrote the foreword ended up not being happy about what he had wrote for. He didn't know. He claimed he didn't know it was going to be what it was.
All right. Like I said, I couldn't remember. I could remember seeing an interview with him and he was talking about it, but I don't know, maybe I misunderstood. But let me ask you this. What are your feelings as far as the validity of UFOs and maybe the fact that we've been visited?
I believe it's something. Whether or not it's UFOs, I don't know. I have a lot of other beliefs that I can't dismiss that tie into whether UFOs have landed here. Maybe it's us from the future. I mean, it's something. I believe the government's about to tell something. I think Tom DeLonge a few days ago said, get ready for next week. He's always throwing some UFO noise up about his how he's getting disclosure and all that. But that was fairly recently. I think that was either today or yesterday.
Okay.
But that was, maybe there's about to be, some real news about it.
Yeah.
I think the community's ready to accept it. And I don't know, maybe it helps us with our technology. I don't know what the reason to ever tell us that UFOs are real, but I believe there is something visiting this planet that's not from this planet.
One of the things here recently I know that's occurred was that that one senator was saying that he believed that we weren't releasing everything we knew about UFOs and wanted to look in to see if we were still studying them.
Well, we are. That's the thing. Everybody knows we are.
Yeah.
We give NASA all that money and we ain't been back to the moon yet.
And they blame that on the problem with the moon dust.
Oh, is that what they're saying now? Because I ain't heard that one. Do tell. What is this moon dust they blame it on?
They say that the moon dust, it gets into everything. It's so small and it causes malfunctions in equipment. And so because of that, it's not worth going back. But then again, I've also seen where there are other companies that are looking to going up and setting up 3D printers on the moon and setting up facilities there. I can't remember what specific reason it was for, but maybe launch points to other places.
Right, further in space.
Yeah.
Well, see, that would make sense. That would be great to use the moon for. Maybe even have something to shoot down some asteroids on it. I would think if you're doing a space force.
Yeah.
But we haven't been back. We haven't left low Earth orbit.
Yeah.
And the only time we've been to the moon was during the Nixon administration. For real, think about it.
Yeah.
I don't think we ever went to the moon. I don't think we can. I don't think we know how. Or maybe we do. I don't know. I just don't see us going back in the 60s. The moon dust wasn't a problem then.
I tell you, the only reason that I'm going to disagree with you, or one of the main reasons I'll disagree with you that we haven't been, is because when I went back to school, one of the things I was taking was computer sciences, and it was programming languages. And the lady who taught my class was one of the women who programmed the cards for that mission.
Right.
The programming was done on cards. It was this woman. She was crazy, man. She could literally think in binary. I mean, it was nuts, but she saw the mission take place.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. I'm glad you disagree with me. That's great. Because maybe you changed my mind. I'm not sold on one way or the other. I'm looking at what I've seen now. I guess we didn't know about the Van Allen radiation belt back then. If you see the things that they actually went up to the moon in.
Yeah.
If you go to museums and can see one of the capsules, we got stuff today that can't go through that Van Allen radiation belt. It just happens to be between us and the moon, but we did it back then. And then another thing, how long does it take for images to get back from the Hubble telescope today? And everybody says, well, it's further out. How can we broadcast back then to the Earth pretty much in real time? What was the delay on that?
I couldn't tell you what the delay was. Yeah.
I think it was 30 seconds, so they claimed. But I can't get cell phone reception 5 miles offshore.
Well, you're.
I mean, hey, I maybe I just questioned it too much.
Yeah.
It was a space race. There was a Cold War. America had to be the baddest kid on the block. So none of those guys got sick. Neil Armstrong didn't get sick of radiation poisoning.
Yeah.
I promise you, if they went back up in that tin can piece of crap that they had back then, I'm shocked they didn't drown when they hit the water.
That's one thing too I like about you is you're willing to put it out there. So, like I said, this is going to be one of those ones.
I just like the debate, man.
Huh?
I just like the debate.
Oh, yeah.
I just like to wonder, look at all of it and talk about it. I could sit here and argue why it's real too, but it's no fun.
Yeah, that's something that I like to do too. Is sometimes I just like to play devil's advocate. I just want to see, what you really believe. It's fun. So, do you think that we have aliens somewhere stored away? They're supposedly up at what they call Area 52, right, Patterson. And I've got a friend of mine. She was stationed at Wright-Patterson for a pretty long time. I asked her if she'd ever seen any aliens up there, and she said, yeah, she'd seen a few, but unfortunately they were all from this planet.
Right. Well, I don't know if the Roswell crash was a thing or not. Still doesn't mean aliens didn't come to this planet at some point.
Yeah.
I believe with the way our technology is, we're probably living amongst them. They're probably working with our government. I don't know that our government has made these advances all on our own.
Yeah.
So there's that. Are people that smart that we can make all these advances, but we're still having problems like curing cancer, or, we're still running on fossil fuels for whatever reason?
Yeah. That's another situation where you have to follow the money.
Yeah.
Most things politically, when you get right down to it, it's all follow the money. So,
yep. And that's the sad truth about everything.
I'm one of these people, man. All right. I know just from a logical standpoint that you can't have this many galaxies. The number's so high, you can't fathom it. So there has to be life somewhere. Right. And there has to be life that's advanced. I don't know that they've gotten here.
I think at some point, and we're going there now, and I listen to Elon Musk a bunch. I find him very interesting when you see the way he answers questions. He's either really smart and talks a certain way, thinks about every single word he's going to say, or maybe he's part robot already. I think artificial intelligence is ending up as our evolution.
Yeah.
So, because right now when 5G comes out, we're already making robots to do this and that. We're going to have self-driving cars. We're going to, be out of jobs because the trucks are driving themselves on the highways. There's going to be a lot of jobs that are lost because of what everybody wants. And it's all coming with this 5G. So I think at some point in our evolution, we're going to combine. There's a lot of people that said that. It makes sense to me. I don't see it any other way.
Yeah.
Your wealthy people would probably do it first because they don't want to die. Maybe they download their consciousness at some point, into a hard drive that fits in a little robot body or whatever.
Yeah.
And maybe the evolution of something else is far past ours. And that's maybe what's visiting the planet as an artificial intelligence. Maybe that's the technology we got if an alien ship crashed there. Because we've slowly been, especially over the last, at least in my lifetime, it seems like the last 20 years has been drastically different than the first 15 of my life.
Yeah. I was born in the early 70s. So the world itself has changed completely from when I was a kid.
Yes.
And so I think once you got silicone-based chips for computers, once that advancement was made, then it just took off. The sky was the limit after that, because then suddenly everything could get smaller and smaller. You could make things more powerful. And yeah, I think sooner than later, you're going to see where people are putting implants to integrate their brain with the internet. I just saw released about a month or two ago contacts that were hooked to the internet that you could put them in your eye,
Right.
and use Google Maps and all kinds of stuff just by moving your eye.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's coming.
You know, and you think about, we're finally now just getting this stuff. How long has the military had it?
Yeah.
They done tested it out for years before they let us get our grubby paws on it.
I've always heard that the government was 20 years ahead of the private sector.
Right.
And I don't know how true that is, but it seems like that's probably the case.
Oh, I would most definitely believe that. And they probably want you to think that they're not, you know, because everybody says private sector is always better.
Yeah.
You know, there's money to be made. And I can't believe that something would finally come out. You know, and hey, we just invented this in the last year. And it's probably been out for 20 years. Government's been looking at it and figuring it out. They've been using it.
Yeah.
So as best I can figure, and unfortunately, I just feel that's how it's all going with everything. I think the AI, because look at people in their phones now.
Yeah.
You know, they're just locked into it. Most important thing on the planet to them.
Yeah. It definitely zombies them out. And talking about, you know, how far ahead they are as far as technological advancements, I think that that's the big secret at Area 51. It's not UFOs or aliens that they're hiding. I think it's the fact that they're so far ahead of the private sector in as far as technological advancements that it's ultra top secret. You're not going to get near there. That's what the people found out, that we're going to have that big raid on Area 51.
Did they have it yet? I thought it wasn't supposed to happen until like 20 seconds.
No, it hadn't happened yet. And as a matter of fact, they canceled it at that location and moved it to Las Vegas.
What good is that?
Yeah, because now it's just like a music fest.
Right, of course. Might as well make a buck off of it. You know, they wasn't going to go get shot anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, they would have been shot, but I don't think they had the cojones to do it.
That was the craziest thing, where the people were going, well, they can't get us all. Yes, they can.
Oh, yeah, they sure
They can get all of you.
That's no problem.
It's,
you know, and you think back to that crash, the bodies, maybe they were crash test dummies, maybe they were children with progeria. Let's say they were aliens, but they're not like the aliens we think. Maybe they were robots.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why they can travel light years, you know, things like that. Because ain't no human going to be able to live no, you know, light year, let alone travel 300 of them.
To me, that makes the most sense because, one,
exactly,
you can avoid issues with radiation.
Yep.
Two, you're, like you said, it's the only thing that's going to last that long and be able to travel. Because, well, the other thing, how are you going to build something that's going to withstand the pressure of moving at the speed of light?
We still apparently don't know how to control gravity.
Yeah.
So like any kind of G-force or anything you're getting going through space, I don't know how that works, but it just seems to me like the pressure and all that stuff would just melt a human.
Yeah, well,
you're trying to travel that far.
The thing too is, I mean, because, you know, Einstein set it up, the energy you would need is equal to whatever your mass is times the speed of light in order to be able to travel the speed of light. So you're talking about a ridiculous amount of energy. The energy source would have to be nuts. But even as you take that away, as you approach the speed of light, your mass becomes infinite. So
right,
it's you know, if they can break that speed record, hey, you know, let me know. Or to me, what would be more feasible is that they actually developed a warp drive that warps space. That seems more feasible to me than breaking the light speed.
Well, to me, I just don't see it as something that we can do as humans. Most plausible answer to me is that the Earth is flat and we'll never leave this planet, and that's just the people that run the ant colony coming down to check on us every now and then. But
I've heard
that's probably not a possibility.
the Matrix theory too.
Yeah, the Matrix theory it's cool to listen to.
Yeah. Sometimes I think to myself, that makes a little sense. And then other times I go, what the hell are you thinking?
These are things that fill my mind. I get into all the conspiracy theories that I can.
Yeah.
You know, if nothing else, just interesting to read. It's better than listening to the stuff they play on the radio today.
Yeah.
So.
All right, man. Well, you got anything that you want to plug?
I actually have a film coming out. It's in the last bit now. The score's being made. It's called The Pit. It stars Les Stroud and myself, Survivor Man.
Yeah.
And it's about two guys that they're all war buddies, and they meet up, to go on a camping trip, and they fall into a hole in the ground. And from there, everything that can happen will happen.
All right.
So that's we're finishing that up, and then tomorrow I actually on Amazon there will be a film I'm putting out. It's a short film. It's called My Journey with Monsters. It's about a guy who believes he's psychic, and he takes pictures of the woods and sees Bigfoot, Birdman, Anubis, and MIBs after him and everything. So I did a human interest piece on this guy, and it's really funny. The guy seriously believes what he's saying.
Yeah.
So some people believe it too.
Yeah.
I withhold judgment. It was an enjoyable movie to make. The guy's extremely funny, and he's dead serious. So if anybody check out that, My Journey with Monsters, it'll be on Amazon Prime tomorrow.
All right, sweet. I'll probably check it out as soon as it's up. And I suggest everyone go out and watch on Amazon Prime Roswell 70 Years Later. I think it was pretty well put together, man. And like I said, it actually brought up something that made me, rethink things. So it'll enlighten you if you hadn't heard some of the stuff that's on there. Appreciate you coming back on, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me on, and, keep up the good fight, and I'm sure I will be talking to you again.
Yeah. Now, whether Roswell was the legitimate crash site of aliens, as most ufologists assert, or if it was the crash site of a secret government test, and then a mythical story created to save a small town, we cannot say with any certainty. It's up to you to decide if the story is true, or if it's all just smoke and mirrors.
Before we end the show, we wanted to tell you about our Patreon. For as little as $2 a month, you get double the amount of Smoke and Mirrors with exclusive Patreon episodes coming out every other Monday. That means you get 28 episodes instead of 14, and as we love to say, who doesn't want more Daryl and Cindy? Click the link in the description and sign up. I promise you'll be glad you did.
Yeah, and you really want to check out this episode coming up because we're going to discuss the interview with Stacy and kind of give our opinions on what we think really happened or what didn't happen there. So you want to check that out, and then we're going to cover the Childs Whitted case. And that's one of the cases in UFO history that the government did not try to immediately discredit. So you want to listen to this one. Also, if you are in or around the Tennessee area and believe you are dealing with paranormal activities in your home, let us know, and our friends at Rap Paranormal will get in contact with you about doing an investigation. You can contact us at smokeandmirrorspod@gmail.com or call us and leave us a message at 931-368-8747. Thanks for joining us. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast player or on our website at paraphiles.net.
Also, you can follow us on Twitter at Parapodcaster or at RapTN.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Good night.